A lot of authors nowadays telling people how to write a book and they make it so complicated. But for me, it was actually very simple. I've written two books, one, The Rebels of Rome, and another, Resonance of Fiction. Rebels of Rome, historical fiction, Resonance of Fiction, romance. And I wrote Resonance of Fiction in only a month, and it's about 50,000, 55,000 words. Now, how I did it so quickly and so well is you have to first find an idea that resonates with you. So, the idea has to interest you. It has to it has to be good enough for you to follow through with the vision all the way to the end. And once you have that idea, right? Once you have that foolproof idea that you like a lot, then you start to build an outline for what the plot's going to be. It's very self-explanatory, right? In order for you to foreshadow things, in order for you to create a real story, you need to know what happens at the end, what happens in the middle, etc., etc. You can't just some people I think they just write. They have like a very very kind of preliminary or a non-existent outline, which I think is not intelligent because you want to use literary techniques like foreshadowing and um, you know, plotting to really bring it all together and to make it make sense and to make it rereadable as well. Like, because when you want, if someone reads your book, you want them to be like, oh, this happened there, which caused this at the very, very end, or in the sequel, in the next book. So you want to know, really, the further you think of the future, the better. Um, and the most important thing when you write a book is just discipline. And this is the most important thing in life in general. If you want to do anything, you need discipline. If you want to get a good physique, you need discipline. If you want to write a book, you need discipline. If you want to start a company, you need discipline. So you just gotta write, man. You gotta write hours per day. Even when you don't want to, you gotta put words down on the page. If you have writer's block, fucking take a step away, drink a glass of milk, work out, go outside for a little bit, look at the sun, and uh, and then come back and then let your mind flow, let the ideas flow. Um, and those are some general things that I write. The three most important things that are generally for writing a book. But to get more detailed, when it comes to prose, this is something that's very, very important. You want to have the right prose for the right situation. If the prose is too heavy handed during an action scene, if it's too flowery during an action scene, it's just going to detract from it. When it's action scene, you want it to be simple, precise, and kinetic, right? You want it to convey motion, convey force. When it's something like a romance scene, right? You want it to be more flowery. The prose needs to be more elaborate. Maybe more obscure words. More alliteration, more poetic techniques. Maybe some rhymes. You could really incorporate whatever you want. God knows I have. If you read my books, you know that I when it's a romantic scene, I'm very heavy handed with the prose because I believe it conveys an ethereal air. It conveys a kind of ethereal atmosphere. And another thing, which is something that people don't actually talk about that much, is you want to make the characters likable. If you don't like the main character, then what's your impetus to read it? You want to be able to identify with them. Maybe they should be relatable, but they should be generally someone that you can root for, right? Um, and another thing is you want suspense, you want mystery. Because if you don't have suspense or mystery, then why turn the page? You want to know what happens at the end, right? You want to know is Edward what is Edward? Is he a vampire? Is he a superhero? Is he a superhero? Um, you want some always some level of mystery fantasy does this really well because just the general world is a mystery. Like, you want to know what the mystery of the world is. You want to know how things work. You want to know how this guy has this power, and who slayed who slayed this dragon, who's the mother of the dragon. You know what I mean? So yeah, those are some things that you could think about for writing. Just very preliminary, basic, but it doesn't need to be complicated. You know, it, the best thing I could tell you to do is just to read books. Because if you read a lot of books, like hundreds and hundreds of books as I have from my childhood, then you will just understand it all intuitively. You won't even need to think about it, which is why writing for me has always been so easy and simple.